November 20th, 2014. From El Cajon, California, this is episode 60 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. My name is Mark Duvall, and sitting next to me is Dr. Mike.
Hello.
Did you watch the World Series of Poker final table?
I did watch the World Series of Poker final table. It's funny because in years past, I kind of haphazardly watched, but for some reason, I watched the whole thing this time.
Well, it was great because as soon as I tuned in, the first thing I noticed was, hey, we can see the hole cards.
Right.
Last year,
and that's a big reason why I watched so much of it.
It was so much more watchable. Last year, there was a 15-minute delay. It was semi-live, 15-minute delay, and they would show the cards after the hand was over.
Right.
This year, they made it a 30-minute delay, and they were able to show the cards during the hand. And boy, that made a huge difference.
Did you notice that at one point, one of the announcers said something? He was talking about a hand that was like an hour earlier. And he was saying, well, by now, he knows, talking about the player, you know, what had happened in the hand before, what the guy had.
Sure, yeah.
So you're assuming that when they take a break and go back to talk to their friends, you know, they're in communication with other people who are watching.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know, and so
that's part of the new world of, you know, the World Series of Poker final table, right? That's the way it is.
You know how the guy played that hand.
Yeah.
And you don't have to wait, you know, a week later and watch it and know how he played.
Right. So, I mean, it's like no other final table in the world, right? Where do you, anywhere, know what the hand from an hour ago was, you know, exactly what they played.
Well, it tells you a lot of tales about the people.
Oh, yeah, you can
figure
stuff out.
But I'll tell you what, the play was excellent.
It really was.
I mean, I watched that, and my wife was watching it with me, and we both agreed. I mean, there were very few instances. I can only remember one where I thought I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah. It's funny because you and I were talking earlier, too. It almost seemed like you were watching a prepackaged
Right.
telecast because it was, you know, the hands were kind of interesting. It's like, you know, they were interesting hands and what everybody was doing. Nobody was taking terribly long to make a decision, which was good.
A couple of times they lagged a little, but it wasn't super long.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. The guy that finished third.
Yeah. Van Hoof.
Yeah. He had the glasses the second day.
Yeah.
And the first day he didn't have the glasses.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
And they kept talking about how he was more intimidating without his sunglasses than he was with it. And he did have kind of an intimidating glare. He
was the chip leader for most of the final table, too.
Yeah, right.
And it was a little surprising he went out
lead
third.
Going in that last night.
Yeah. But, yes, very entertaining. Martin Jacobson was the winner, and he takes home $10 million. I think but did he make any mistakes? I mean, he played great poker.
No, he played great poker, yeah.
The other news, kind of shocking news from the final table was Mark Newhouse, who for 2 years in a row made the November 9, which people are saying is the greatest poker achievement of all time. Right. Really, to go through that huge a field and that big an event.
And then to top it off, he finishes in ninth place both years.
You know, and this year it didn't look like he was going to. He even said, it's not going to happen this year.
Well, he had more chips this year.
Oh, yes, he did, yeah. And it was kind of heartbreaking the way he went out. He went out on a bluff. He had pocket tens. And his opponent, I can't remember who it was, had pocket queens. And the board ended up with two pair out on the board, right? So both players were kind of afraid of, you know, full house, possible full house, that kind of thing. And so Newhouse decided he had pocket tens. He knew that it was a bluff. Yeah. If he made this, you know, bluff. He went all in and, you know, his opponent thought about it for a while and finally called him off, and that's how he went out. So,
boy, and that's a gutsy call.
Yeah, a very gutsy call.
If you're in position and, you know, you push all in like that and a guy calls that is a gutsy call.
Yeah, it was a gutsy call. And it was a gutsy shove, too. Some people are criticizing for it, but, I mean, you know, I don't think I could have made that call.
I don't see anything wrong with it because it puts pressure on the other guy.
Sure, absolutely.
I would have folded. I would have just said, he made the full house. I'm not going to stay in with my, you know, my queen high two pair.
Yeah. Well, just very entertaining to watch, and this is great that we can see hole cards now. So I'm assuming that's going to be the way from now on. So that's great news.
What if Mark Newhouse makes the final table next year?
Then he'll be the greatest poker player of all time.
I mean, that one, don't you think? Seriously, that would
I mean, it's so ridiculous to even consider because you can't just be a great poker player. You need some luck along the way, right? Otherwise Phil Ivey'd be there every year, right?
Right.
But,
No, Phil Hellmuth would be there.
No.
He'd win it every year.
No.
Yeah, ask Phil Hellmuth. He'll tell you he's the greatest poker player in the world.
I stand corrected. Yeah. Hey, some other news. So, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, he wrote an op-ed piece for the New York Times, basically saying, hey, look, it's time to legalize sports betting. That, it's going on anyway. It's an underground industry, right? People are making the wagers. Why not legalize it and start to control it and just be upfront about it? And let's not pretend like it's not happening. And let's start wagering. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's unusual that a person of this stature who's in charge of the NBA would say that.
Well,
the NBA, those are some pretty clean-cut guys. I mean, next to the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, the NBA is the second cleanest organization I can think of.
Wow, that's news to me, but I'll take your word for it. That's interesting.
I'm not an attorney, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah. Well, Silver's the guy who spent, no time in running
Donald Sterling out.
Yeah, Donald Sterling out, right?
Yeah.
So, it was, he didn't beat around the bush. It's like he's gone, right?
Yeah.
So he's opinionated. He says what he
thinks. All seriousness, I do agree with him.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's great that at least the end, I think the general consensus coming out too, people are agreeing with him. Not everyone, of course. Right. But they're saying, hey, yeah, this goes on, right?
It might actually be harder to cheat with legalized sports wagering.
Maybe.
Yeah, because it's under more scrutiny, right?
Maybe, right.
Because these guys, now, like a referee who's going to cheat, the NBA really doesn't care so much about that. They do, but they don't go actively looking for that. It'd be more like the gamblers who are, making the wagers would be more upset, right?
Well, I don't know if I agree with that. The NBA is going to be upset if they find out that a referee is wagering on games. If they found out, right.
But, they don't actively look for that, I bet. Unless it's real obvious. But, they don't go out of their way to look for that, where they would if it was legalized betting.
You don't think they look for that kind of thing? It seems like to me, especially with some of those scandals within the last few years.
Well, maybe in the last few years. But, before, I don't think they actively looked for that. Unless it was super obvious that somebody made some bad calls.
Yeah.
But, they kind of just, that was just a bad call. But they would scrutinize their officiating ton more if there was legalized betting.
Well, okay. I think they probably are under a lot of scrutiny, but you're probably right that they'd be under more scrutiny if this happened.
I'd like to see the NFL get under a little more scrutiny.
Oh, yeah. Well,
oh, my God.
Yeah,
some of the calls you see, sometimes you really wonder some of the things that aren't reviewable, like holding and stuff like that.
Well, especially the NFL, because, one bad call can make the difference in a game, and that's usually not the case in an NBA game.
Right. And, you can call holding on every play in the NFL,
well,
right?
You should call holding on every play in the NFL.
But it comes down to the end of the game and it's like, holding,
sure.
That 20-yard gain is back and then you lose more yardage. Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Well, here, I'm reading directly from Adam Silver's piece here about what the requirements would be if this was legalized.
Okay.
These requirements would include mandatory monitoring and reporting of unusual betting line movements. So if, you saw the Vegas line move quite a bit, it's like, where's this money coming from?
Right. And who bought off who to make this game?
It could be. Right. A licensing protocol to ensure betting operators are legitimate. And that would be good. And you'd think, if you had a choice.
Just let 7-Eleven handle it.
You just go into your mini mart. And
7-Elevens can handle it all.
But, think about it. As a bettor, would you rather bet with an illegal bookie or, with an illegitimate source?
No, a legitimate source,
yeah, exactly.
Of course.
Yeah.
Number one, a casual guy like us would have no problem going to a legitimate place and making a wager.
Yeah.
I would never go to a bookie.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't either.
Yeah, I just don't want to lose.
That's something you and I have never done. It's it's funny with all the gambling we talk about. I've never made a bet with a bookie.
No, me either, and I never would. It's too dangerous.
And we could probably find one, right? I'm sure we have friends that probably make bets. Right? If we really went out.
I know several people that I could call.
Yeah. Some more of these requirements: minimum age verification measures and geo-blocking technology to ensure betting is available only where it is legal. And that's kind of what they're doing. They've done in New Jersey too.
Right.
They have a fairly good system there for determining, if the gambling's being done within the state of New Jersey and age requirements and that kind of thing. mechanisms to identify and exclude people with gambling problems. I'm not sure how they would go about that, but I mean, that's a good goal.
I guess, of course, it's a goal. But I mean, if you had a problem and you were on some list, you just give your buddy the money and say, go make this bet for me.
Yeah. And I mean, if somebody's got a gambling problem and a bookie, I mean, that might be the case now. And there are plenty of people with gambling problems that still go to casinos and still play video poker. And,
I'll tell you what, that and the last one here, which is education about responsible gambling.
Yeah.
Those two are put in there to get it to pass.
Yeah. Well, and I wouldn't, it's one of those things like, you go into a casino and, it says, oh, got a problem with gambling. And it's usually a very small sign, they claim that they're, looking out for problem gamblers, but, it's more PR than anything.
It's PR. And it's also, you want to get stuff passed legally. You have to make people think, well, you're taking all the necessary precautions.
Sure, of course.
Whether you are or not.
Well, yeah, I would hope that they would, though. Yeah. But anyway, interesting piece, and it's causing quite a bit of buzz, and we'll see if anything comes with it.
I wonder what Vegas thinks of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, which states would, allow it? Obviously, not all of them,
Well, let's just say California did.
Okay.
By an offshot, California did. Imagine how much money during football season that would take away from Las Vegas.
Oh, that's
true,
yeah.
Because how many people do we know that go during football season? I mean, I have one patient that goes about 4 or 5 weeks out of the football season to Vegas specifically to bet NFL football.
Yeah.
He lives here in San Diego. He'll go there. He doesn't go every weekend, but he goes about 5 or 6 weekends out of the season to specifically bet football. That's all he does. And he makes large wagers and he figures out which week he wants to go.
Uh-huh.
And if that was legal in California, he would not be going to Vegas.
No, he wouldn't. I wonder how much it would affect Vegas versus how much it would affect these offshore gambling sites.
Well, they would really be affected.
I think they'd be hurt quite a bit.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
Obviously,
why would you risk putting money offshore when you could bet in your, 7-Eleven?
Right. There still are other countries in the world that wager on sports, of course, right? So I don't know if they'd go out of business, but I think they would lose quite a few
they'd probably
customers.
Have some incentives too. They do certain things.
Sure, match your initial deposit. Right,
match your initial deposit, things like that.
Yeah. But you're right. If the NFL got on board, and the NFL's so two-faced about this, right? Of course, with fantasy football and, they know what's going on, point spreads and over-unders.
I love that they come down hard on this, but they have fantasy football programs sponsored by the NFL.
Yeah.
Right? And that's wagering, right? Yeah. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but it's wagering. If you and I get together and we put in $100 and the winner, of that game takes the money, that's wagering.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it is. All right. Okay, some more bad news for Atlantic City. It looks like Trump Taj Mahal is going to be closing. The planned close date is December 12th. That's going to be the 5th Atlantic City casino to close this year.
How many are left?
I hope this is it. I think that there were 12 at the beginning of the year. There were 12. I think 5 have closed.
So now there's 7.
Yeah, now there's 7.
Yeah, it's almost half.
Yeah, hopefully this is it, right? Hopefully they've kind of found the balancing point here, and, because we keep saying.
Well, I mean, eventually, if there's fewer casinos, the ones that are left are going to do great.
You would think so.
You got all those people coming from the East Coast, New York and Washington, down to Atlantic City for a day. My brother goes to New York on trips, and then he goes down just for the day to Atlantic City,
So we'll see. One more news item. We mentioned this when Archie Karas was initially arrested, but Archie Karas, very famous high-stakes gambler who is famous for going on a run in the 90s where he turned $50 into 4 million and then or 40 million or something and then lost it all. Anyway, he was caught at one of our local casinos here, Verona, marking cards at blackjack. And they caught him. And it's so strange. Of all places to cheat at blackjack, Verona. It's the
blackjack.
It's where the Blackjack Hall of Fame is located. Yeah. And they have very liberal rules for blackjack. So of course they're watching the tables pretty closely.
Right.
Anyway, he got arrested. Well, he pled guilty in October to these offenses, and he got 3 years probation, and he's got to pay $6,860 in restitution to Verona. Apparently, he won about $8,000 when they caught him marking these cards.
Right.
$6,860 in restitution. Doesn't it seem like this guy got off scot-free?
Yes. I was laughing. $6,860.
And
to a guy who bets millions. I mean, that's like, me saying to you, you owe me $1. Come on, give me the $1. And I'm going to be pissed at you for a day, and then we're all done.
I mean, this guy, this is nothing new for him. He's been caught cheating in the past. Imagine if this is probably why he did it at Verona. Imagine if he'd done this in Nevada.
Oh, well.
They would have locked him up.
Right. Or he would have just been out in the desert in some shallow grave somewhere.
Exactly. Plus, they said if he has good behavior, I guess if he, abides by all the rules of his probation.
So that means he has to play basic strategy correct.
That's right. Just basic strategy, correctly, right? If they catch him, splitting tens, then the deal's off. No, if he gets, for this good behavior, they will reduce his felony to a misdemeanor. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's almost like
in the state of California too, a misdemeanor is nothing.
Really,
it doesn't even show up.
It's like an ad for cheaters.
Right.
Say, go ahead and give it a shot. If you don't get caught, great. If you do get caught, it's not that big a deal.
We'll give you a misdemeanor. It's like, a slap on the wrist.
Wow. I couldn't believe this. So anyway, that's the story. Archie Karas. Go get him.
Yep.
So just a reminder, you're going to be going to Vegas here pretty soon.
Yep. The 5th through the 7th.
5th through the 7th over the weekend. You're going to go there for the Great Gift Wrap-Up. You're going to go to the rodeo.
Right.
So you are available for listener meetup if need be.
Yeah, on that Saturday, I guess, in the middle of the day or something. We're going to the rodeo that night, so.
So it's basically going to be another one of your kind of quick up and back trips.
Yeah.
Like get there Friday night.
I'm going to get there Friday night and then
leave Sunday morning. So you're driving.
Yeah, or maybe Sunday late morning.
Okay, but basically if somebody wanted to catch you there, it'd be on that Saturday, right? The 6th. Right. And you're staying at Caesar's Palace.
Yep, we're going to stay at Caesar's again.
Yeah.
My brother is going, and he's staying at
Paris.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my dad may go with him. He doesn't really want to go. My brother was trying to talk him into it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he just wants somebody to hang out with.
Yeah, okay. How about, so that's, you're going to be at the casino there. Got any good casino stories since our last show?
Well, we went out to Harrah's, Southern California last weekend.
That's right.
It was not good.
No.
The gambling was not good.
No, the gambling was not good.
Funny thing is, it started off great.
Oh, it was because of my roll.
Yeah, you were like the third shooter when we got there, and you had a great roll, made a bunch of hard ways. I jumped up quite a bit of money right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it was like somebody pulled the curtain shut.
Yep, it's terrible.
I mean, it was terrible after that.
Yeah.
And so it just slowly dwindled away until we were broke.
Yeah.
And then we went and played our free play and got some of our money back.
Yeah.
But then it got to the point where it was so bad, I said, I've had enough. I mean, it was, and that's a lot for me because I'll usually go get some more money and try and recover. You know, it's like, oh, it'll turn around.
Good.
It'll turn around.
Chasing your losses. That's good.
Chasing my losses.
Good gambling advice. Uh-huh.
But you know how I am.
Sure.
I'm positive. I'm thinking, okay, it'll turn around. One good roll.
Yeah.
I may not get back to even, but I'll get a chunk of it back.
Yep.
And sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it does. I have seen it work.
Yeah. We've got some major comebacks.
Oh, absolutely.
But it didn't do it that night. And so I just gave up.
Yeah.
And we hadn't eaten, and I said, let's go to the cafe. By this time, the buffet had closed.
Right. It's about midnight, something like that.
Right. And there's a sandwich place and a hot dog place. But I said, let's just go in the cafe. It was like 11:15, and we were going to wait till midnight to get some more free play.
Oh, that's right. We had to wait till midnight to get the next day's free play. Yeah.
Next day's free play. So we went, my dad was playing 3-card poker. It was his birthday.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. It was his birthday. He didn't want to eat. He wanted to play 3-card poker. So we went to eat, and for some reason, when I sat down, I decided that I was going to get the fish and chips.
Okay.
I don't know why. It just sounded good to me.
Sure.
Every once in a while, I like a good fish and chips.
Yeah, it's good. And, what can go wrong?
Everything. It was not a good fish and chips meal. It was absolutely horrid. The first bite I took of the fish.
Yeah.
You couldn't eat it. I mean, it was chewy. It was like, what is this? It was like I was biting a piece of rubber. I couldn't actually bite through it.
Yeah.
As if all of a sudden my teeth had no sharpness left to them or something.
Yeah.
It was terrible. And the fries were soggy.
Yeah.
And you got
I got a French dip that was...
And it was very...
it wasn't that good. It was dry. Even after dipping it in the au jus, right, it was still pretty dry.
And the funny thing is I've eaten there before and had some pretty decent food. My wife and I had steaks once there.
Yeah.
And we're like, in the cafe, it's always a risk having a steak. But it was actually pretty good.
It was okay.
But, that fish was bad.
So tell everybody what you said after you stopped eating the fish.
Well, I had taken a few bites and I said, okay, I can't eat any more of this. I mean, it was bad.
Yeah.
So I turned to Mark and I said, well, now we know where diarrhea comes from. And that was it. You want to know how they make diarrhea?
It's the fish and chips at the cafe in Harris, Southern California. That's how they make it.
That's how they make it. Oh my God, that was terrible.
It was. It capped off a terrible evening, right? So
it's like insult to injury. I mean, the gambling's not going good. And you can't really blame anybody for the gambling. It's just the way the cards came up. Yep. I mean, the dealers felt as bad as we did.
Of course, they know us, and they want tips. And
sure. They want tips. One dealer said, we want Mike to win. My brother was there because it was my dad's birthday, and they told my brother, they said, we want Mike to win. He wins, we win. Yep. And, everybody was a little upset because it just was not going our way. But boy, the fish and chips.
Capped it off.
Yeah, so I ended up not eating at all.
Yeah.
And just went home.
What you should have done was stopped off at McDonald's on the way home. It was Friday night. That filet of fish was on sale. Yeah. Would have been better than the fish and chips you had at the cafe. Oh, God,
infinitely better. Yeah. I bet I would have been able to bite through it. How many times do you say McDonald's filet of fish is better than what you ate, the meal before? That's right.
Hey, we want to thank everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, go to our page first, youcanbetonthat.com, and click through our Amazon link at the top of the page. That way, when you make a purchase, we get a little kickback that helps cover the costs of the show, and it doesn't cost you a thing. You'll pay the same price just like normal. Hey, let's go to the voicemail hotline. Don't forget, give us a call on our hotline. Maybe we'll play your clip on the show. Our number is 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
And we've got a call from Ryan.
What's up, fellas? I just want to drop you a line. Had a couple of Vegas trips in the last month, and heard your most recent show. I chime in once again. You know what? For the first time ever, I'm actually on a winning streak where I'm winning on, I think it's 3 trips in a row now. 4 straight trips. And, it's not big money or nothing, but it's significant to me because it's never happened. And I don't gamble too much, but I figure I'd share with you guys what I'm doing differently now, because I have to be doing something differently, right? And all I play is craps, so I thought you guys would like this. One, I'm still drinking when I play. That hasn't changed. I'm definitely keeping the cocktail waitresses busy still. Other thing is the hard one, absolutely no field bets ever. I don't care. 3 12s come out of row. I'm not messing with the field no matter what. The hard way bets, I've really limited getting back on when they come down, hardly bet the hard way bets, and that can be difficult to do. Sometimes it's so hard to resist, but that's something we're real disciplined with. And one of the main things was, man, I've just kind of opened up my pocket a little more and kind of, in my mind, played with a higher bankroll, even though if it never got to that. Just, being free, being able to max out the odds instead of, being shy and just backing your odds up maybe once or twice, when you're a novice player. If you're going to play, you gotta play right. So, I'm only playing downtown, 10 times odds at least. I just don't see the point if you're playing to win. You may as well go where the rules are more in your favor. So that's changed for me is picking where I'm playing. And I know the whole dice setting is probably all BS, but ever since I started setting the dice and trying to throw them with a purpose, even though I'm probably, I don't know, maybe I'm just due to win. My last 3 trips were that I've actually tried throwing since I've, at least been aware of it. I never even heard of dice setting and all that. I've been able to, man, I hit the fire bet 2 straight trips, 4-pointers, the 25 roll at Gold Coast. I had 20 just the other day on my last trip. You know, just hitting a lot of points, and, you know, I had I don't know, man. Man, 6s, 8s, 9s, just, I don't know. I wasn't really intending to call to have the call played or anything. I was going to tell you guys I was going to drop you guys an email to correspond that way. I just kind of wanted to have somebody tell the story to. Yeah, and you know, the other good thing about it is I'm finally getting comps, man, which is cool because now I've got 3 days here, 3 days here. So now it kind of seems like I can go into my next trip, you know, feeling a little better about everything because you feel like, you know, starting out ahead. Anyways, man, good luck to you guys next time you play. I'll chime in once again.
Good. Okay. Well, it sounds like Ryan's on a nice little streak here going.
Yeah. Well, the important thing is he's still drinking when he plays.
That's very important that he keeps drinking at the table. I'd say, you know, I mean, I drink at the table too. The only thing I would say is, you know, be careful because, you know, drinking, like at the poker table, drinking doesn't make you fold more.
No.
You know, and so at the craps table, you know, when you're drinking, you're not going to say, pull my bets down. Yeah, take my 6 down.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, as long as you're not getting carried away. In other words, like when you aren't drinking, you're taking, you know, 5 times odds. And when you're drinking, you know, all of a sudden you know, sometimes you're taking double odds and sometimes you're taking 5 times.
Yeah. Like our friend Roger from, at the trips at, Vegas last time, right? Our drunk friend Roger. Yes,
right.
Good. Yeah. But good. It's good to hear that Ryan, you're not betting on the field anymore because that can eat your bankroll away pretty quickly because, you know, it's a decision every roll. And there is that high house edge.
I am surprised how many people do bet in the field. I mean, do you ever notice when we're at Harrah's, Southern California, how many of the regular players, I mean, who are very, very knowledgeable about craps, play the field?
Yeah, a lot of them. Sometimes every roll, sure.
Yeah, it's weird.
But Brian says he's limiting his hard way betting, so that's good too, because that's going to eat you up. Not quite as quickly, you know, if you're just throwing a buck out there or whatever, but that's good. He says he's opened up his bankroll and he's taking full odds. That's good. That's easy. It's easy to do when you're winning.
Right.
You know, make sure that your bankroll can handle full odds, especially if you're at 10 times odds. Because most people underestimate how big their bankroll needs to be.
Most definitely. That's probably the biggest problem with craps.
Yeah.
Well, maybe even with blackjack
It could be. Sure. Well, I think any kind of gambling. Kind of gambling, most people don't realize how big their bankroll is.
You're always shocked. Oh, that went so quick.
Yeah, you know. And
you know,
that
what were
can
you
happen.
thinking?
You can get on that bad. But especially with 10 times odds, too, because typically the minimums downtown are $5, right? That's going to be the minimum you're going to find at a 10 times odds table. And so that means you're putting $50 odds if you're taking full odds.
Right. Think about that. Think if you've got just, say, 3 numbers covered.
Yeah.
You've got 55 on times 3, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got $165 out there. Say you made some other bets and you got $200 on just that one shooter there. Well, you know, 5 shooters, you've gone through 1,000. You have 5 bad.
Could go very quickly. But if your bankroll can handle it, absolutely. You know, take advantage of those odds. And it's great to hear he's getting comps now, too. That's great. You never want to play in order to get comps, but you want to make sure that you're getting the comps that are coming to you.
Right.
Like when we were talking on the episode, our VIMP episode, when we were talking about how we went over to Four Queens to try to get a comp for our meal that we were having that night.
Right.
We weren't trying to we were going to play no matter what.
Right. We were going to play no matter whether it was at Four Queens or Golden Nugget or the D. I mean, we were going to play.
We were going to play no matter what.
So we might as well play there and get our meal comp.
Yeah. So that's good. So, all right, as far as dice setting goes, and somebody tweeted us recently, too, wanted to have us talk a little bit about dice setting. Here's the thing. We don't believe that dice setting can influence the dice at all. Neither one of us does. No. But that doesn't mean we haven't done it before.
Oh, no, we tried everything.
And I remember one trip where I said, yeah, Mike, you know, we were watching some documentary on dice setting, and said, yeah, he was saying, you know, to make the dice into the V shape, right? Where you take the 3s, make sure they're on top of the dice and make the V shape and, you know, toss them. And we had this great trip, right? Where we were doing it every time and just, every table we went to, you know, it's like, all right, we're concentrating. We pick it up and lob it down.
That happened one trip and then never again.
Never again, right? So, you know, we don't think it can happen. It's not to say that it can't, but I've seen no proof of it at all. So
yeah, I'm sure in most cases, people believe they've controlled the dice.
Yeah.
But has somebody truly controlled them? Probably not.
No, I don't think so. But, we can't prove a negative. So just be prepared.
Right.
If it seems like, you're doing better because you're setting the dice and you're concentrating, that's going to come bite you in the butt before too long.
Well, all I know is if a guy wants to set the dice and he has a good roll, more power to him.
Sure.
I mean, I want to be betting on him. Now, if he's dicking around with the dice and then he has an immediate out, it kind of gets under my skin a little bit.
Sure.
But, that's my take on dice setting. Yeah, if you can do that and have a good roll, please do it.
Yep, exactly. But thanks, Ryan, for the call. We love to hear stories.
Yeah.
So, anytime somebody wants to give us a call on the hotline just to, hey, here's something that happened to me at the casino, we love it. I know that a lot of our listeners just like it when we tell stories. We're the same,
Yeah.
We like to hear, the adventures of our listeners. So, and we got an email from listener Matt. Let me just read this here. I am very new to playing craps and just play from time to time. I usually only bet the pass line and take full odds when I do play. Very good, Matt. Excellent.
Yeah, good.
I have a question regarding taking odds on your bet. If a casino offered unlimited odds on your bet, then how would you bet? Now, the Riviera, a couple years ago, offered 1,000 times odds.
Okay.
Which is, that's basically unlimited odds, right? I think the table maximum, I think, was like 5,000. So if you had a $5 bet,
you're at the max.
And you max out. But I mean, for most of us, anything that's 100 or over is virtually unlimited, right? How often have either one of us taken 100 times odds, even if it's an option for us, right?
Yeah.
Our bankrolls can't handle that. A $5 bet with $500 odds.
You could have a $1 bet with 100 odds.
Yeah, sure. If it's a dollar.
That would be like my normal play. I was going to say my answer to this question would be I'd probably bet $2 and take $200 odds. Well, because that would be equivalent to the way I play now with a $50 bet, like on a 5 and 9 where they have 4 times odds.
Yeah.
And I bet 200 odds.
Well, if you could find,
I wouldn't probably go over that.
If you could find a casino where you could bet $2.
Right. Well, it'd have to be a dollar table.
But let's say it was a $5 table. What's the most you'd probably take?
I'd probably bet $5 and probably 200 odds.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
And with my, I often, when we're playing, I often won't even take 5 times odds,
right?
Depending on, what I've brought to the casino, what my bankroll is.
Yeah. Well, if your bankroll's 500 and you've got $10 on the line, if you put $50 odds out there, your 500 is going to go very quick.
Yeah. So, a lot of times I'll just take, 3 times, even just double odds, depending on what my bankroll is and what the minimum is. So,
yeah, the whole thing, the answer to this question would be it depends on what your bankroll was.
Yes.
Now, if we're going to go to some theoretical place where they let me take whatever odds I want, then hopefully I can have whatever bankroll I want to go with it.
That's right. And let's keep in mind, too, that this odds bet, it's not like you have an edge on it.
No.
Right?
No.
It's, the house has the same edge that you do, so, which is nothing, right? You don't have an edge at all. So it's, it's not like it's a bet that you have an edge on that you'd really want to put as much money as you could. But,
right.
Yeah. So anyway, good. Thanks for the question, Matt. We got another email from listener James. A couple of questions. He says, I have a question regarding errors made by dealers. What do you do or should you do when a dealer makes an error when paying a blackjack hand? For example, you should have lost with an 18 and the dealer has 19. However, the dealer pays you anyway. Is the player obligated to say something if he notices it and give the chips back? What about other players? If you're not the affected player, should you just keep quiet? So this is
most definitely should keep quiet.
We just answer that part. Yeah. If you're not involved at all, don't say anything.
Yeah, always be quiet if you're not involved.
You paid that guy, but he lost.
You want to get beat up in the bathroom? That's the way to do it.
So we'll say that for sure. If you're not involved at all, don't say anything. This is a very interesting question because it's a double standard with me, probably with you too.
Yeah, it is. Well, most people, I would say, Mark and I, and I'll say this with 100% certainty, we're very moral people.
Yeah, I'm pretty moral.
Yeah, how we live.
Ethical.
Ethical.
Yeah, I don't know about moral. I'm ethical.
How we live our lives anyway.
Yeah.
But when it comes to casino play, if a dealer makes a mistake, it goes both ways with me. It's a lot of times I might just ignore it and just collect the money. Mm-hmm. Other times I might feel like, oh, that'll give me bad karma. And I just say, oh no, I lost.
I'll tell you what should you do? I'll leave that up to people to, talk amongst themselves. My feeling is what I do. Yeah. If a dealer makes a mistake in my favor, I take the money and I don't say anything. Yeah. And it's because I kind of look at it as, we're in a game against each other, me versus the casino, right? And that's part of the game, is they made a mistake.
Right. And it's just like a sporting event. If something happens, like I'll never forget years ago, the Dodgers had a center fielder and his name escapes me now, but he just happened to be a very, religious person. And in a critical game at the end of the season, I don't know if you remember this.
I do remember this,
he made a catch on a ball, or claimed to have made a catch on a ball.
Yes.
That in replay, now this was before replay days, right, but it clearly hit the ground.
Right, it was not a catch.
It was not a catch, but he came up and he held that ball up like he had made the catch, knowing that he hadn't caught it.
Sure, right. He's holding it up to pretend like he had caught the ball. Yes.
Right, and it turned out he made the catch, and it cost the Padres that game, and it was a critical point in the season at the end of the season when they were in a playoff hunt. But I always laugh about that because here was the guy that he espoused his religious beliefs quite frequently. Mm-hmm. But when it came to the game, he was going to do whatever it took to win.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right. And that was the bottom line. It's the same thing when you're gambling. A lot of people look at it that way. Well, that's just part of the game.
Yes. Yeah. And, it's funny because here's something to consider too. And I've talked to my wife about this. If a dealer makes a mistake like that and you call attention to it, that could hurt the dealer.
Could.
Right? If the pit boss is watching and seeing a mistake like that, it could actually hurt the dealer.
Yeah.
Now, you could argue one way or the other on that, but that is another way to look at it.
It could hurt the dealer because they could think, well, is that dealer doing that on purpose? Trying to, or did they honestly make a mistake, or do they, like this guy and they're trying to cheat for him?
No, I look at dealers' mistakes as being part of the game.
Yeah.
And, that's just part of it. It's
a lot
us
of times
them.
The mistakes are just people going fast. I mean,
sure.
just, they're going fast and maybe they're thinking about the next hand or they've got other things on their mind.
Could be. Now, I'll always, if they make a mistake that's in the house's favor, then of course I'll call them on it.
Right.
But here's what I'm saying about a double standard. If they give me too much change at the grocery store, I'll say, oh, here, you gave me too much. Right. It's just different. It's not like we're playing a game with the grocery store where they have an edge on us.
Right. No, because at the grocery store, they've set a price and you've agreed to pay it.
Yeah. And
if you get money back, it's like when you go through the drive-thru and some young 16-year-old and you're supposed to give you $1 and they give you $5.
Yeah.
We say, oh, you gave me too much.
Yeah, I do too.
Because I don't want to steal from Jack in the Box. But,
Yeah. So no, the casino is different. So what should you do? Well, we told you what we do. I kind of feel that way, and other people might have, differing opinions on it. But I kind of look at it as, hey, we're in a game with them. Of course, I wouldn't say anything if I wasn't involved. Certainly,
no,
there'd be no reason, unless again the house maybe gypped a player. Then I might say something because the house. It's not like the dealer's going to get upset.
I'll remember that when they accidentally pay you too much or something else. Oh, Mark, they paid you too much.
Please do that.
Yeah, right here.
Do that. I want to see that. Please do that. I'm looking forward to that. All right, another question from James. He says, I travel to Las Vegas regularly. I know you welcome listeners meeting you if you happen to be in Las Vegas. How would I arrange a meeting if I'm in Las Vegas at the same time? I think the best way is just through Twitter. Just send a message to us through Twitter. Or, if you're going to be there at a certain time, email us. The thing is, we always tell you when we're going to be in Vegas. Yeah. So, you'll know. So, right now.
You could just go to the craps tables at Caesar's Palace and say, where's Mike and Mark?
That's right. Now, I'm not going to be here but we already talked about it. You're going to be there on December 6th.
Yeah.
Just, tweet. I may have to, call you because you don't, you're clueless when it comes to Twitter.
I'm clueless on Twitter.
But, I think tweeting's probably the best way. Okay, we got another email from listener Ed. He sent us a bunch of articles on craps and gambling, all sorts of different things. And one of the articles dealt with the so-called Kelly Criterion. He thought it might be a good topic for the show, and we agree. So John Larry Kelly Jr. was a scientist who worked at Bell Labs, the great old Bell Labs, who I think first came up with the concept of the Big Bang.
Yep.
I think they figured it out at Bell Labs. Yeah, great think tank. Anyway, in 1956, he formulated what's called the Kelly Criterion, and it's also known as the Kelly Strategy, Kelly Formula, or Kelly Bet. It's a formula that determines how much of his bankroll a gambler should wager on a particular bet in order to maximize the long-run growth rate of the bankroll. Okay? And this formula only works on wagers where the gambler has an edge. So it's a bet where the gambler, if he makes this bet in the long run, he's going to win.
Right.
Okay, so it would be something like if you were a horse bettor, right? And, you were a really good handicapper, or a sports bettor, or, something like that. But, a bet where you actually had an edge.
You think you have an edge anyway.
Well, mathematically, you have to have an edge for this to work.
Well, I mean, I don't know what bet, other than you're playing poker, would you know mathematically you have an edge?
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point. Or,
you could be the best handicapper of horses ever.
Yeah.
But you don't know when that horse steps out of the gate if the horse next to him is going to run into him and throw him off.
Well, here'd be an example is, let's say you found a new carnival game at the casino, and, whoever came up with the game.
There was a mistake.
They didn't realize that, the game could be, taken advantage of. Something you need to have an edge, right? So the question that Kelly was dealing with was, how much should you bet? Because, you don't want to bet your whole bankroll because you're not guaranteed to win the bet. Right. It's just a bet that you have an edge on, right?
Right.
So what is the best amount to bet in this case? He developed this formula that has actually been proven mathematically to be correct. And some of the mathematics gets a little tricky, but for an even money wager, it's actually very simple. If you are involved in a wager that will pay even money, right? Mm-hmm. And you know that you actually have an edge, you can calculate, based on the Kelly formula, how much of your bankroll, of your total bankroll, you should bet on that wager.
Okay.
The idea being that if you could make this wager, many times,
it would repeatedly,
it would maximize the amount that your bankroll grew, right? So basically what it is the gambler should wager a percentage of his bankroll equal to the chance of his winning the wager minus the chance of him losing. And again, this is just on an even money payout. Okay, so for example, let's say that the player has a 60% chance of winning. That means he has a 40% chance of losing, right?
Right.
And again, this will get paid at even money. So 60% minus 40% is 20%.
So he should bet 20% of his bankroll.
Yeah, he should bet 20% of his bankroll. Okay. And if he were to do that, in the long run, his
just
bankroll...
every time. So if he bet, say his bankroll's $100 and he bets $20 the first time, if he loses that, his bankroll's now 80.
Yes.
So I assume that he would bet 16.
Yeah, it would go down. Or if the bankroll went up, it would go up. His bet would go up. Right. Exactly.
Therefore, maximizing his profit in the long run or decreasing his loss in the long run.
So in this example, it would always be 20%. So the amount would change, but it would always be 20% of the bankroll.
Right.
Now, the math does get a little trickier if the bet doesn't pay even money. It's not really that complicated, but it's too complicated for an audio podcast. I don't want to be throwing even if we use an example, it's a little more complicated. But what I would recommend is just do a Google search on the Kelly Criterion. The Wikipedia page is a little wordy and a little heavy on the math, but do a search on that and you'll kind of get an idea. The formula is actually very simple as long as you have all the numbers. You know what the payout is, you know what your edge is, et cetera. If you don't have an edge, there's really no point in using the formula. But again, it's been proven that this maximizes the long-run growth of your bankroll.
So at Bell Laboratories somewhere in 1956, the guys are sitting around a table, 10, 12 scientists, and they're trying to figure out the Big Bang.
Right. They're trying to figure out the origins of the universe.
And then some guy says, screw this. Let's just figure out how much we need to bet on our blackjack hands to make the most amount of money we can.
Yeah. Or if it were close to a racetrack, let's go to the track. Right. I came up with a formula. You ready? Let's go.
This sounds like us. At our jobs, yeah, this is okay, but let's just go to the track.
See, I think this is a very interesting concept. The problem is trying to find the bet where you have the edge.
Right. Well, that's it. That's like I said, trying to find the bet where you have an edge is tough.
So, I mean, for most of our listeners, this is more of sort of an academic, interesting topic as opposed to something they can
How would this
employ.
work with video poker?
Well, you'd have to have an edge in the game. You'd have to be playing either a game that was more than 100% payback,
right,
or something that combined with comps that you got from.
Yeah, see that you combine it with comps. I just don't know how that's gonna.
Well,
I'm gonna bet 20% of my comps.
See, I don't know. With video poker, it would be a lot more complicated because on any given wager, the payout is different.
Right.
Right, depending on what you hit.
Right.
Right. So you'd have to take an average of that. Oh, I don't even want to start to think about what
I'm just
you'd have
thinking
to do
about
for
games
this,
where
but-
you might have an edge, where you might have an edge.
Yeah.
I guess card counting, right?
Yeah, if you could determine, sure, the edge that you have over the house with card counting.
Right.
But, then the question becomes, okay, so do you bet when you figure this out, do you bet the percentage on every single hand you play?
Right.
Well, no, that doesn't make sense.
Because the count
right?
changes all the time.
Yeah. So, no, I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, it's a good theoretical thing.
And I guess it's used quite a bit for investment strategies.
Oh, well, now investments, I could see that, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Because you can figure out a long-term, projected profit on an investment.
Yeah. So I guess that's where it's really more practically used.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's the Kelly Criterion. So thanks to Ed for sending that to us.
Yeah, I'm going to go home and look this up.
You are? Yeah. Honestly?
Well, maybe not tonight, but tomorrow for sure.
All right. Don't forget to make your football picks.
Yeah.
Like every other week in our football pool. The first game of the week will start. Mike, how come you didn't make your picks? That's because I got home at 11 o'clock.
Yeah. It's
home from work. And
it's hard when you get home late and you have to think about football.
Yeah, that is hard. Hey, that's going to do it for this episode of You Can Bet on That. Be sure to download our app for your mobile device. You'll get access to all our episodes, quick links to contact us via Twitter, Facebook, email, and our voicemail hotline. And you'll get bonus audio. On the bonus audio for this episode, we talk about the good old days when we played Pai Gow with all our Asian friends and all the terminology that came up through that. Ayah. With our app, you'll also get TV listings showing all the gambling-related shows coming up within the next 2 weeks. I update those listings every Wednesday using a program I wrote myself to search through all the raw American TV data. The bonus audio and the TV listings are only available on our app. To download it, go to our webpage, youcanbetonthat.com, and on the left-hand side of the page, click on the link that says how to download our app. We have a link for Android devices and another one for iPhones and iPads. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 951-2-WAGERS. Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. Also, follow us on Twitter at YouCanBetOnThat. We always tweet when we're in a casino or on our way to a casino, and we'd love to meet up with you. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/YouCanBetOnThat. And, of course, head on over to iTunes and write a review for us. Supposedly, when you do, it helps us get new listeners. Okay, Dr. Mike.
I just want to say, if you've made it through all that, you've made it to the end.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people actually listen to this last little thing.
I know, because it's always the same, basically, yeah.
Right, but, I'm just going to do a little bragging here, since we mentioned football pool. My 8-year-old, almost 9-year-old daughter won the football pool this week.
Yep, she did easily.
Yeah, I was second.
You were second, but you were a distant second and then there was an even distant third. So she blew it away.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the Wizard of Vegas football pool that I have been making the picks for, I went 0-6.
Yeah.
This last weekend.
It was a rough week.
0-6.
Well, that Seattle game was rough. That was a rough
It was
game.
a rough week anyway.
Yeah.
That's why your daughter won.
That's why she won. But I'm very proud of her, Grace. I'm very proud that you won a football pool from all these 50-year-olds.
Exactly. All right. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Great. Thanks for listening.
Good night.